This right here is the JAC T9. It's finally on sale in Australia, and in this video I'm going to tell you everything that is good about it and everything that is not so good about it. So before we start, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell to stay up to date. But for now, let's get straight into the review. Let's start the video talking about a brief overview about the T9. There are two different model grades to pick from, with a price range between $46,000 climbing up to $49,000. But it is worth pointing out that is New South Wales drive-away pricing, so that might vary depending on the location and state you live in. And the variant I'm featuring in today's review is the top spec Haven. And for options, you have 7 external colours to pick from. And it's also worth noting that the T9 is the type of vehicle that you were going to compare with the SsangYong Musso, the LDV T60 Max, and the GWM Cannon. Finally, a big thank you to Sydney City JAC Motors for allowing me to film their demonstrator. And if you are on the market for a JAC, definitely check them out and you will be able to find their details in the description below. Okay, moving on to the design. So the colour of this example is finished off in a colour called Wren, if that is how you pronounce that. And up the front we've got LED DRLs, progressive LED indicators. Your main LED headlights are down on the bottom here, and you've also got LED fog lights on that lower section as well. Over in the centre, an open air vent with JAC lettering, some additional cladding on this top section that runs along the bottom. And for off-roading, you have 2 recovery points and some steel underbody protection. And if we now take a look at the side view, all versions get 18-inch alloy wheels that are finished off in gloss black with this silver finish, and wrapped in highway terrain Gitti tyres. You also get metal side rails, so they're not plastic but they do feel like thin metal. Front and rear disc brakes, plus some additional cladding across the wheel arches, chrome on the mirrors and door handles, and finally on top of the tub a black metal sports bar. Now this of course being the top spec Haven model, you get roof rails up the top there, dark tinted privacy glass across the rear quarter, and a different design to those 18-inch wheels. And if we now take a look at the rear design, at the back we've got full LED rear combination lights. There's also a JAC logo integrated within that tailgate there. You also get a black plastic step-up bar with these grip points on the top, and finally underneath the tray a full-size spare tyre. Okay, moving on to the interior. So the T9 gets a remote key, keyless entry and push button start for the ignition. Now first impressions, some of the key things that you will notice is this giant touchscreen media system, and all models get leather accented trim. There's also a 2-spoke leather wrapped steering wheel that feels relatively good to grip onto, plus some additional chrome highlights across the dash. And in terms of build quality, the door slam feels nice and solid. You do have hard plastic across the top here, but soft padding where you rest your elbow. The center console is also nice and soft, and even on top of the dash as well. Soft padding across here, but it does start to get a bit durable when you look lower down, even on the bottom section of the doors, and even towards the center that feels a bit tinny, but overall for a car in this price point, it's pretty much on par with its other rivals. Moving on to comfort, the steering offers tilt adjustment, but not reach, so it is hard to find a good driving position in here, and that's also an issue in the LDV T60. And all models get leather accented trim, but this of course being the top spec Haven model. The seats are finished off in this diamond quilted leather effect. They can also be electronically operated in 4 different positions, and you've also got seat heating for both the passenger and driver. But on the model grade before this, you don't get electric seat adjustment for the passenger side, just electric adjustment for the driver. And finally, air conditioning with physical buttons, a dedicated climate menu in the infotainment, and your front and rear demisters are located in the center. And if we now move on to infotainment, it all runs off this 10.4-inch touchscreen media system. However, there are no physical buttons or dials, you just have a volume button on the steering wheel. But overall the system is pretty easy to work out first go. The menus are nice and basic. And if we move on to some of the key features, this has AM, FM, DAB digital radio, USB, Bluetooth, an 8-speaker sound system. However, no satellite navigation, but you do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. CarPlay is wireless and Android Auto is wired. You've also got 64 colours for the ambient lighting, which runs along this top section and where the wireless phone charging sits. And if we now move on to safety, you get a reversing camera with rear parking sensors and parking guidelines, but this of course being the top spec Haven model. You get a 360-degree camera system with multi-angle views, plus front parking sensors and a rear cross traffic alert. Now, in addition to other safety items, you get an auto-dimming rear view mirror. There is also autonomous emergency braking, blind spot monitoring on the wing mirrors, safe exit warning assist, a driver fatigue monitoring system, adaptive cruise control, a lane keeping assistant with active lane centering, and finally, speed sign recognition. Now moving on to this 7-inch display in the center, as you can see it's not really that configurable, as all you can do is cycle through different menus looking at fuel consumption, speed, driving range, and pretty much everything that is necessary for driving. But you do have a choice of drive modes between Eco, Normal, Sport and Snow. And down in the center is your 4-wheel drive selector to swap it from 2 high, 4 high and 4 low. And additionally, you also get a rear diff lock and hill descent control. And now moving on to storage. So specific to this top spec Haven model, you get a wireless phone charging pad in the center, and across the range, a 12-volt socket with 2 USB-A charging ports. There's also decent storage in the glove box as well that fits a small bottle of water. You've also got decent door bin storage that could also fit a large bottle of water. Up the top here, you've got a mirror for your passenger, nothing for the driver, and a sunglasses holder on the overhead section here. Looking by this section, 1 large and 1 small cup holder, and finally decent center storage that is also air conditioned. Let's now move on to the back seat. So this front row seat is set in my driving position, and I've got plenty of knee room. Toe room is a bit tight, but I've still got plenty of headroom. And over in the middle seat, decent headroom, however toe room and knee room is pretty limited. Now, in addition to other key features, we've got device holders up the top here with some map pockets, directional air vents in the center with a USB-A, USB-C and a 220-volt power socket. There's also decent door bin storage that could also fit a bottle of water. The seat belts can be a bit annoying, they do hide away in these small pockets here. You've also got grab handles, a coat hook hanger and a light up the top here. Over in the center, a flip down armrest with 2 very small cup holders, and you can also drop this seat down. That reveals additional storage and a flat load space. And you can also lift up this bottom section that reveals 2 storage cutaways. And finally, for child seats, the 2 outboard seats are ISOFIX compatible, and right behind me there is a single top tether point. Let's now move on to the tray. So firstly, if I open this up, as you can see, the tailgate is a bit heavy to open and close, but apart from that, you do have over 1,000 kilograms of payload, which is a bit more compared to a Ford Ranger. And from what I can see, you get a tub liner as standard, plus 4 tie-down points. The rear suspension is also leaf sprung, and in terms of tub dimensions, payload figures and all the additional data that you might want to know, all that information is on your screen right now. And as you can see, this does have a brake towing capacity of 3,000 kilograms, which is a bit less compared to the industry standard, which is around 3,500 kilograms. But you do have an unbraked towing capacity of 750 kilograms. But I think for the price point, this is still quite a usable work ute for the class. Let's now move on to the powertrain. So under the bonnet features a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine that develops 120 kilowatts and 410 newton-meters of torque, so a bit underpowered compared to some other rivals out there. However, you do get an 8-speed ZF automatic gearbox that is linked with a part-time 4-wheel drive system. And for off-road specifications about ground clearance, weighting depth and other key data, all of that information is on your screen now. And for ownership, you get a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is a bit better compared to LDV's 7-year 200,000 kilometre warranty, plus 7 years of roadside assistance, and you also have cap price servicing from up to 7 years. Okay, moving on to the driving impressions. So at the front, I've got great visibility. There's also good side vision, decent sized wing mirrors, and at the back, look, that is a narrow opening. But like I mentioned, you do have that 360 camera, but the picture quality could be a bit better. So driving the JAC T9, what is it like to live with at low speeds? Well, this does have a turning circle of 12.4 meters. The steering feedback is nice and light thanks to the system being electric. And if we move on to ride comfort, as you can hear with my voice and see with the camera footage, the ride does come across a bit unsettling. So over bad and bumpy broken road surfaces, it's definitely not the most comfortable dual cab out there. And moving on to fuel consumption, JAC claims that this can achieve 7.6 litres per 100 on a combined cycle. I'm currently averaging just over 9 litres per 100, which should drop down to around 7.5 or at least 8 litres on the freeway. And if we move on to driving aids, I've tried to adjust the sensitivity and turn some features off, but that driver fatigue monitoring system still flashes every now and then, and the speed sign recognition is a bit intrusive. And I'll give you an example. I was traveling on the Cross City Tunnel. It's an 80km speed limit. I was traveling at 70 kilometers because there was a bit of traffic in the tunnel, and the speed sign recognition still flashed at me. And for performance, if I put my foot down, 70, 80, 90, 100, first of all, you've got a bit of a turbo lag. Secondly, I do feel like this engine is a bit underpowered for this type of dual cab ute. And if I cycle between the different drive modes, if I put it in sport to see if that changes anything. Okay, it's a bit more punchier, but still pretty slow, and all the driving aids are still annoying me. I've also noticed that this seat makes a bit of a rattle. I thought there was something in the door pockets, but it's coming from that seat. I don't know if that's got to do with this being a test drive vehicle, but if you own one of these JAC T9s, let me know in the comments if that has occurred with you. So what is my final verdict on the JAC T9? Well, there are some compromises when it comes to refinement, engine performance, driver assistance, but to be fair, those are downfalls that you will come across with some of the T9's main rivals. And for a four-wheel drive capable dual cab ute, the T9 does offer a lot of good value considering the specification you get. But which would you pick? Would you go for a T9? Would you go for a SsangYong, LDV, or some other rival? You let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, please like my video, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell to stay up to date with my latest uploads. But for now, I will see you in the next film. Thanks for watching.